Examples of manipulation. Please read the parable, The Rich Man and Lazarus, before continuing with this topic. We have said that the Bible is clear in teaching us that man dies, and not that he is kept in some other place. Does the parable of the rich man and Lazarus teach us something contradictory to the rest of the Bible? Little is known of the circumstances surrounding the presentation of this parable. It is evident that this parable was directed especially at the Pharisees, even though the disciples, the publicans, the sinners, and without a doubt, the general public were also present. Jesus continued in this parable the lesson he had presented in the previous parable of the unjust steward. The objective here is to indicate to us that the manner in which we handle the opportunities that come to us in life will determine our destiny. In verses 17 and 18, Jesus affirms that the principles stated in the law are immutable, just as God himself does not change, and gives us an example of this sublime truth. Subsequently, we will present the parable of the rich man and Lazarus in the hope that it will teach you that in this life, our destiny is decided according to the use we make of the privileges and opportunities that are given to us. First of all, the rich man here represents all those who do not use the opportunities in their life correctly. And in a collective sense, it also represents the Jewish nation, which, like the rich man, was committing a fatal mistake. The parable consists of two scenes. Scene 1 represents this life. The second scene represents the future. The parable of the unjust steward presented the problem in a positive manner, that is to say, from the point of view of one who has made his preparations for the future. The parable of the rich man and Lazarus presents the same problem, but from a negative point of view, which is to say, it emphasizes the attitude of another not making the necessary preparations. The rich man was mistaken to think that salvation was based on being a descendant of Abraham and not on individual preparation. The parable of the rich man and Lazarus should be interpreted, as all others, in harmony with its context and with the general sense of the Scriptures. One of the most important principles of interpretation is to demonstrate that each parable has the purpose of teaching a fundamental truth, that it necessarily has an intrinsic meaning to give form to the account. In other words, it should not be insisted that the details of a parable have literal meaning where spiritual truths are referred to, unless the context is clear that the meaning is an integral part of the original intention. From this principle, another principle is inferred. It is not wise to present the details of a parable when teaching a doctrine. Solely as a doctrinal base may the fundamental lesson of the parable be taken, according to what is clearly deduced from its context and is confirmed by the general sense of the Scriptures, along with the details explained in the same context. The supposition that Jesus wanted to teach us from this parable that all men, good or bad, receive their reward when they die, violates these two principles. According to what the context clearly illustrates, the purpose of this parable is to teach that future destiny is determined by the way in which men take advantage of the opportunities in this life. Jesus was not speaking here of the state of man when he dies, or the time when he receives his reward. He was simply making a clear distinction between life here and now and life in the future, and how one relates to the other. Besides, when we interpret this parable to mean that man receives his reward immediately after dying, we would be openly contradicting what Jesus himself has taught us. For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with the angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. Reflected in all these biblical passages. One of the most important rules of interpretation is, the stories and the figurative accounts should be understood in light of the literal affirmations or true statements which the Scriptures refer to. Even those who, by means of this parable, try to teach something contrary to its immediate context and to the general sense of Christ's teachings, have to admit that many of the details of the parable are figurative.